recently got approached by a major company searching for a chief marketing officer. In the candidate job spec, they listed must-haves, strategizing, gaining market share, nice-to-haves, building teams, developing people. So we're in 2019. Building teams and people are still nice-to-haves. I feel frustrated. This is exactly the reason why people think corporates are soul-crushing black holes. I believe a corporation is a collection of unique souls just like you and me. Corporations don't have to be evil. When leveraged correctly, they can become a magnificent force of good for the world. But let's face it, our current corporate systems are far from perfect. What needs to change is how we operate for the new world. And I believe it comes down to one single mentality: the willingness to let employees blossom as unique souls. My understanding of this mentality began in the business called life. At 16, my dream was to become a corporate manager in a world-class company. And for the next decade, I pursued that with tunnel vision. By 28, I was headhunted to join the global #1 player of my industry. I landed not only at the global headquarters of this Fortune 500, but also in one of the toughest business units. There, I was competing obsessively, living, eating, and breathing work, giving my 5,000% to stand out in a pool of amazingly talented, ambitious peers, and learning to survive in the storm of office politics. Those years educated me, built me, broke me, rebuilt me countless times. Each time I glued myself back together again, I was a different person. Softer, wiser, warmer, kinder. I understood others more, and through empathy, I also learned compassion. I started gaining enough experience and hindsight to know that in an organization, there are no forever stars and no forever underdogs. In an organization, employees differ in status, but they don't differ in innate worth. By then, my career was soon launching me into profit-driving leadership roles. And I was transitioning from someone from within the group to someone leading the group. I felt the need at the time to choose between two very different leadership styles: fear-based but more effective, or compassion-based but less effective. The dilemma to figure this out, along with the decade of work, intensive work piled up, and I was burning out. I knew I needed a break. So I took a sabbatical year off, and no, I didn't go on a beach holiday. I went and found my answer at Harvard Business School. There, I obsessively compelled every professor, colleague, and CEO I met with the same question: is compassionate profitability really possible? Can kind people ever thrive in a brutal environment? I wondered, if I had all these work experience and I'm confused, then what kind of messages are we really sending out to the young graduates, and what kind of world are we building for them to enter? After hundreds of lectures and soul-searching discussions with inspiring business leaders, I found my answers and conviction. Compassion and profit is not only one or the other. Compassion and profitability must exist at the same time. When leading a collection of unique individuals, compassionate profitability is not only the right way, in the long run, it is the only sustainable leadership style. Not just at a human level, at a pragmatic level too. Research shows that by 2025, 75% of our global workforce will be made up of millennials. As leaders, if we cannot connect with the millennials, the generation most demanding for authenticity and compassion, then we will not be able to mobilize this workforce to deliver business results. Corporate humanities, to be fit for the future, must be reinvented. Research shows that we're entering a faster corporate dropout than ever before. We're also meeting an unprecedented bad rep on large corporates. But despite all of the negative bad press on large corporations, it is an undeniable pillar of our economic constitution. If we deny the corporate system, we'll be denying a large part of our global economic driver. It's not going anywhere. We also need to recognize that corporate organizations, just like governments and any other institutions, is neutral and an organizational frame itself. It's the people that we put inside it that gives it life, that determines whether the outcome is virtuous or less than ideal. The truth is, we're all living in a transitional era. From the stoic, iron-fisted baby boomers to the hard-on-your-sleeves millennials, we all strive to be profit-driving leaders who dare to lead with compassion. How should we lead? My decade of journey crystallized in me 3 different beliefs that I hope should be practiced by corporate players at all levels. 1. Believe in profit and compassion. Humans are fascinating, multifaceted, complex beings. In each of us lies a psychological spectrum of the brightest brights and the darkest darks. Organizational circumstances evoke raw human survival instincts. Over time, our subconscious mind picks up on the unwritten reward systems, and we start to adapt accordingly in order to thrive in the system. This is called obedience to authority. In the 1960s, the famous Milgram experiment tested this. In the study, an authority figure instructed volunteers to electrically shock patients from low to fatally high. All of the volunteers showed signs of distress and pleaded to stop. The authority figure pressed on, asking them to continue until a fatal voltage. Before the Milgram experiment, experts thought that maybe about 3% of the volunteers would continue and obey until the end. Well, results showed that while everyone pleaded to stop, 65% of the volunteers obeyed until the end. The test was replicated around the world to fairly consistent results, even reference to the Nazi concentration camps. As we can see from the study, and as I had experienced firsthand in the corporate environment, human with power define culture. Human without power behave accordingly to culture. The outcome can lead to great good or great destruction. Whether in governments or in organizations and corporates, when it comes to people, leaders have a duty to make things right. I also noticed that we're living in a fame-obsessed culture, hailing genius inventor CEOs. Brilliant, fascinating, fearfully demanding, and slightly narcissistic. The world's media devour in their headline-worthy charisma, and they enjoy the world's attention. While they undoubtedly make some of the best entrepreneurs of our era, we can also agree that they are not always the best corporate leadership examples. On the other hand, I have also met compassionate leaders who are the embodiment of compassionate profitability. Because they know that success is not hero worship and it's teamwork, so they're often humble and discreet. So over time, what we're seeing is there seems to be a disproportionate media representation of inflated fear-based leaders and muted compassion-based leaders. So when our young people are really looking for successful role models, what kind of image are we projecting for them? Representation matters. Just like ethnicity and gender, ensuring social representation of compassionate, noble, successful leaders are also key for a brighter future. Ultimately, compassion and profit can coexist, but at the organizational level, our reward system needs to evolve. We need to be putting compassionate leaders in positions of power and also at the forefront to drive culture. In parallel, in profit-driven organizations, profit is non-negotiable. Compassion on its own will struggle to maintain momentum, because I have personally seen many leaders who are well-intentioned but didn't have enough business competencies to uphold the pressure of delivering. So their compassion are wrongly labeled as weak, ineffective management. If we want to uphold a culture of compassionate profitability, we must focus on developing in ourselves and our teams strong business competencies. Finance, retail, marketing, negotiation, and any other disciplines. We have to invest in mastering each business competency so that we can truly become masters of building profitable businesses. Because ultimately, delivering profit earns leaders the right to lead and create a culture of freedom sustainably. 2, believe in the divinity of your people. People are fundamentally whole, resourceful, and capable, as opposed to needing to be fixed. One of the greatest joys of my corporate life is not only mentoring people of my team, but also young people from outside the company. I didn't know Bruce too well until he reached out for help. Bruce was a big guy and might seem intimidating to some, but his sunny demeanor showed a kindred spirit underneath. Sitting in a cafe, I listened to him. I could hear that he was feeling unseen at his workplace. So we carefully analyzed Bruce's life purpose, best career options, and put together a concrete action plan. All this took no more than 2 hours of unjudgmental listening and compassionate coaching. So as I was looking up from my notes, expecting to see a happier Bruce, I was shocked to see tears streaming down his face. He grasped both my hands and he said, "Shirley, you saw who I am. You didn't label me. I know you saw my potential." This was a moment I shall never forget. I understand. Because only years ago, I had experienced the same emotional relief when a talented boss truly saw what I could be capable of. He gave me a chance and transformed my career. There is no better gift to an individual than the gift of making them feel seen for who they truly are, their essence. Corporations are a collection of unique souls just like you and me, and there is gold in all of us. As we look to the future, leaders who can effectively celebrate each individual's uniqueness can truly celebrate diversity. Across gender, race, political views, and religious beliefs, and any other dimensions, it is a vital leadership capability. And when leaders can truly excel in this, organizational success is just a matter of time. 3, believe in being a purposeful umbrella. Another great joy of my corporate life is the moment when we not only take on business responsibilities, but also teams. Being accountable for people is one of the most noble and sacred privileges in any organization. Being a leader is like being an umbrella. When we're a small manager, we can shelter a couple of people from the rain and make their days filled with joy, growth, and purpose. As we climb up the corporate ladder and become bigger umbrellas, we can shelter hundreds, thousands, and even more. Along the way, we'll be surprised to discover the number of people's lives that we can positively transform as one single individual. We can nurture purpose and shelter an entire population. So, if you're a manager today, or if you want to be one day in the future, what kind of umbrella would you be? At the heart of these insights is the understanding that corporations are a collection of unique souls just like you and me. Management is a skill set. Leadership is a spirit. And it comes down to the willingness to let employees blossom as unique souls. I stand before you as a real person from inside the big machine. And I'm here to share with you, through my personal failures and successes, that there can be light, inspiration, humanity, and compassion in the corporate world. As corporate leaders, let our success not be disillusioned by net worth and big titles, but by how many people's lives we can transform and how many issues we help to solve in the world. This is the real profit and loss that counts, the real bottom line of our professional lives. May we all strive to live a life of purpose and be carriers of light in our society. Thank you.